ladies and gentlemen. What wonders a Twitter DM can do. Today, I'm joined by an Indianapolis native, honestly, a comedian as much as a sports personality, a member of Barstool Sports, and host of Cup of Joey, Joey Mulinaro. Joey, how are you doing today?
Christian, man, I'm great. Good to talk to you. Thanks for having me, and really excited to be here.
Thankful that you're here. Something that I want to start with, I was doing some research about you, and I saw Ron Colley. I know I was trying to figure out what high school did he go to see if there was some beef between Warren Central and Ron Colley, but there's nothing that too much that I know of. But
No, we always respect to Warren Central, and hell, you guys put out a lot of good athletes on all the sports that you guys do, and it's a hell of a school, so we got no beef there.
I appreciate that. And something else I wanted to mention. I was doing some deep thinking. I can't remember how long it was. You might be able to help me with this. I remember discovering you on TikTok. It was probably one of your first few posts where it was the post-game interview after a date. I believe it was first. Remember how long ago that was?
Probably January. Yeah, I would say January, maybe early February, but right around that time. Right before everything kind of went to crap in the world.
Yeah, because I remember he seems familiar. What I know him from, and I think that video saved somewhere on my phone.
Oh, yeah, I appreciate it.
Hey, don't mind me. I was just listening to some of the music that you can hear on the podcast. It is made by my bestest friend in the whole wide world, Lovi. His music is amazing, and you can check him out on SoundCloud. That is Lovi. If you want it to be easier, you can check the description of this YouTube video or in the overall podcast description wherever you're listening. He is brilliant, his music is amazing, and he definitely needs more attention. And now, back to the conversation. Let's go ahead and get started. So, you went to UIndy, and I was wondering what you went there specifically for.
Yeah, so I actually started my freshman year, and you shouldn't know this. This isn't like common knowledge, but I went to Ball State my freshman year, and I went there for their communication program, with the Letterman building, and to do all of that, and did radio there my freshman year, enjoyed it, but just wanted to come back home and found UIndy, and I went there for the same thing. So communication, electronic media was my focus on my study. And was basically just there for radio and TV.
Because I'm still sort of in the college hunt right now, or college discovery stage. I'm a senior. And UIndy hasn't been too much in my sights, but I think I might need to give it a chance because, I never know.
Yeah, man, for sure. What, if you don't mind me asking, what is in your sights, or what are you thinking school-wise?
Definitely just sports broadcasting, and then I guess my main three would be Purdue, Butler, and then Ball State.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, my wife graduated from Purdue. I love Purdue. A lot of good people that came out of Butler, and obviously, Ball State was awesome. It has a lot of great stuff, a lot of talented people there. It just wasn't the right fit for me. But yeah, I mean, if you if you want to at least give UIndy a shot, I think you'll be pleased with it to see the kind of stuff that they offer, and it's a different experience because it's a smaller school. But you get opportunities there right away, and that worked out for me.
Yeah, I added to my list from an option. But
there you go.
How was the overall experience of UIndy for you?
I loved it. I really did. Like I said, Ball State was cool and worked. It works for a lot of people, but just didn't work for me. And I went to UIndy, and it was home from the minute that I stepped on campus there. Like I said, that's one of the best parts is they really kind of have that small feel. It's where you have that connection with your professors and your advisors, and it's not just a huge lecture hall where maybe you don't get that experience. So that was really important to me, that and being able to, as soon as I got there, I got to be on FM radio. I got to call sporting games and sporting events. And at some places that can be kind of a little bit of a wait list, and at UIndy they're kind of like, here, we're going to throw you in the fire, and then you're going to make your mistakes, but you're going to get better for it. So I loved it.
And then speaking of the radio, I know that's sort of where you got your start with the impressions and everything, where you got your initial sort of getting your foot in the water. What was your first one that you did on there?
Yeah, so I tell people all the time, like my whole life I was always kind of like the living room impersonator. Like, when I was at my friends' houses or family, holidays, I'd always whip out some out of like my grandpa or the crazy uncle or my friend's parent or something. And, people always enjoyed them. But then at some point I was like, well, if I can do those people, then maybe if I focus on trying to impersonate people that, are public figures, maybe we could be working with something here. So started trying to do that. And actually Andrew Luck was the first one that I really did and kind of locally around Indy started getting known for, became kind of like the Andrew Luck guy. And then he retired, obviously, much to the dismay of Colts fans everywhere. So I had to figure out different people to try to impersonate. And, from there, luckily I stumbled across, Coach O from LSU and Nick Saban and different folks like that, were distinct and a lot of people knew and, it worked out. So those are the two that really started popping off for me.
And then you were able to diversify. When was the point that you realized that you could succeed at the actual professional level for what you did?
Yeah, so I mean, I had been working in Indy at you probably know like 1070 The Fan, the sports station. Yeah. So I've been working there since I was 20 years old, just working my way up, starting doing part-time weekend stuff, and then eventually getting weekend shows and then working in digital media. So I was doing that professionally, just obviously not as on a higher high level of higher level. So then when I started being able to see that people were connecting with my impressions and the different skits that, me and my buddy Ben Polizzi would do and everything, I was like, okay, I can do this. It's just about getting that platform, getting that next person to believe in me. And then Dave Portnoy and then Barstool came in and they were those people. And now we're, kind of running with it.
And speaking of Barstool, I feel like that could have been a life-changing experience. Do you think you remember like the exact moment where you like got the offer and everything like that?
Oh yeah. You hit the nail on the head there, Christian. It was, I linked up with Big Cat and PFT, the guys from Pardon My Take, when they were in Indy in February. And from that point on, Big Cat was like, hey, I'm going to give your information to Dave Portnoy. And I was like, sweet, thinking, I'll hear from him at some point. I don't have any expectations. And then that night, I was on the phone with Dave having a conversation about, what he thought about it, what he wanted, what I could do there. And then the next week we were on our flight to New York to meet everybody and see the office. So definitely things that I will never forget. Happened quickly, but I think that's the brilliance of Dave and the brilliance of Barstool is that they when they see somebody or see something that they want and know it could work out, then they make it happen, and it worked out so far.
And with your time at Barstool so far, other than getting your show Cup of Joey, what has been the most memorable thing that you've experienced?
Man, just, it's lame to say, but really all of it. I mean, I just, because for so long, I followed these people online and I listened to their podcasts and I knew who they were, but didn't know them. And they definitely had no idea who I was. So just the fact that I can, collab with PFT on a video and then hop on Barstool Radio with Casey Smith or, it's all just surreal. It really is. So there's not a day that goes by that I don't appreciate and I'm not grateful for, what I have and trying to do my best to, just keep doing good work. So it's cool to get the show that I have, definitely. But I'd say just the fact that I get to work with all these people on a day-to-day basis is, really the best part.
I'm glad that you've been able to take advantage of the opportunities that you've gotten. And I wanted to transition over to Cup of Joey to those that might not know.
Sweet.
It is Joey's show where he interviews a variety of people and typically share a cup of Joe E, coffee. And
Oh, nice.
was
You got it.
The idea something that you thought of yourself, or was it pitched to you?
No, I thought of it myself. And I'd be lying if I didn't have any influence coming from Jerry Seinfeld's Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee. I think that's a phenomenal series. I love Jerry Seinfeld. I love how it's approached to where, it's not as much of a formal interview as it is a conversation. You're just sitting with somebody like you would at a coffee shop, just bullshitting. Sorry, I don't know if I'm supposed to BSing and having fun and laughing and everything like that. So that was my idea. As I just said, hey, I love coffee. I think this idea could work. It's not a podcast where I'm just rambling about stuff. It's a series where we're having conversations, and hopefully, people will be able to see a different side of different folks that they wouldn't normally see, because it's a long form interview. It's not just a little 10-minute interview or anything like that. So I pitched it to our director of production and everything. She said, yeah, run with it. Ran with it. And yeah, man, so far I've just been, reaching out, trying to book guests. Me and my producer, Colin, he's killing it. And got a nice little tandem of working together here, and then trying to just, keep having fun and putting together good conversation for people.
Yeah, because the shell of that idea is sort of what I had last year in my school's TV program. I'm also known as Honeybunch, and then they took that and gave me a little show, Munch with Honeybunch, what this is now. Eating cereal with people around the school, and now just made it at home for Zoom.
I love it.
What has been your favorite guest so far for the show?
I've had like favorite parts from each one of them. Really, everybody's been great. I mean, everybody that I've talked to is, just the long. They get it. They know we're having a conversation. They have fun. Talking with Christian McCaffrey was very cool, just because he's such the premier player in the NFL right now. So forming that relationship with him has been awesome. Probably, it's tough for me personally to beat Santonio Holmes, the MVP of Super Bowl 43. My Steelers, last Super Bowl we won, and he made that catch that'll go down in NFL history. So for me to think back to, when I was a freshman in high school, watching Santonio Holmes win the Super Bowl for the Steelers, to then having a 45-minute conversation with him one-on-one, that was pretty wild. So Santonio was great, but really everybody's been a blast.
Yeah, I remember the Christian McCaffrey episode is the one that I actually discovered so long ago. I was like, oh man, this is really cool. And I've followed you in that ever since. I wanted to transition over to the impressions. I'm not going to have you do any. I feel like it's probably just a drawn-out thing. But I was wondering, even to date, what has been your most well-received impression?
Yeah, it's tough because, impressions, much like comedy, they can be so subjective. And it's all how people hear things. It's pretty wild. Like Frank Caliendo and me, we'll talk about this all the time, about how, and back-to-back comments or in back-to-back tweets, I can have somebody that's like, I close my eyes and that's literally spot on. And then the next tweet can be somebody that's like, it doesn't really sound anything like him. Like, it's very weird. There's not very many like universally just accepted impressions that people are like, oh yeah, that's spot on. The most well-received one that I've done probably is Jimmy Fallon or Colin Cowherd. I think because when you get involved with like people in sports, sometimes fans can have their fandom bleed over into then like they're taking it as like a shot at their coach or something, when it's not that at all. So when I impersonate or have fun with somebody like a Jimmy Fallon or like a Colin Cowherd, those are kind of all people that, especially Cowherd, people enjoy making fun of and ripping on Cowherd more than they enjoy like listening to him in a large sense. Yeah. So I think that people connect with that one so well because they think it's funny that, I've been able to kind of channel him as well as I've been able to. But again, that's just because I've listened to him and been a fan for so long that's why I know his little quirks and his ins and outs, so it's kind of a sign of respect in my eyes. And same thing with Fallon. So I'd say those two have been, the ones that people are always kind of requesting more of, always enjoying. And I have a lot of fun doing them.
And then like reception aside, has there been one that you like the different scenarios you can create, like with a certain voice, like you make Coach O do something? What has been, I guess, the most flexible voice and one that you've really enjoyed doing the most?
Yeah, I appreciate it. I'm glad you brought that up because, that is one of my favorite parts about those is I try not only to have the impression sound like the person, I try to put them in situations that they wouldn't normally be in, right?
Yeah.
So, Nick Saban hosting a podcast, or Coach O rapping Jack Harlow lyrics, or Sean McVay ordering at a McDonald's drive-thru, different things to where it becomes more of a skit than just a straight up impression. Because I'm tying, writing a skit idea and an impression all into one thing rather than just reading an impression. I'm sorry, I kind of forget what the question was now because I'm just rambling.
You're good. Basically, just what's been your favorite one to do?
The one with Cowherd talking to his wife about his daughter's boyfriend was a lot of fun. There's a lot of parallels that you could do to sports radio, and that was received really well. Jimmy Fallon being a waiter at a restaurant was a lot of fun. And then there's one. I mean, anything with Nick Saban that doesn't have to do with football is always going to be funny because he's so shitty, about everything all the time, that when you think about him being in his dining room with his wife, or reading a bedtime story to his daughter or whatever, imagining him being the grouchy old Nick Saban, that's a lot of fun to do too. So those are the three ones that I like the most.
And I'm glad you mentioned that you try to take it out of the realm of what they do, like in a game situation, because then it just sort of becomes boring. And if people look it up, they'll be like, oh, it's just like a regular interview or something.
Exactly.
So how long does mastery of any of the impressions that you've done so far take?
Yeah, it's it varies. Sometimes like with an Andrew Luck or Coach O, for whatever reason, I just I can kind of hear him talk, and then I can replicate it, and it's pretty much there. But then with some like I watched a lot of Fallon tape. I'll throw a lot of Tucker Carlson tape on. And it's funny I mentioned like tape like it's like football, but it really is. I mean, because people ask like that's what I do. Like if there's somebody that I'm trying to impersonate, I go to YouTube or whatever, and I pull up and I just watch and I listen and I watch and I listen, pick up what they do with their hands, how they move their face, how they sound when they're laughing, what are different words that they say that people would pick up on. So usually I'd say give me a day or two. If there's somebody that I've never tried before that I want to try, give me a day or two of, like I said, being on YouTube, checking them out, doing all the different stuff, and then I'll start practicing and kind of recording myself do it. And then, hopefully I feel good about it. And once I feel good about it in my gut, then I usually send it out.
All right. And sending it over to the last segment of the show, Munch Time, with rapid fire questions. We just got wrapped up with week 1 of the NFL season at the time of recording. What are your thoughts on who sticks out initially?
Yeah, I mean, the Ravens obviously look really good. The Chiefs look really, really good as well. Those are going to be two tough teams in the league, definitely the AFC. The Cardinals looked really good going to San Francisco and beating up on the NFC, defending NFC champs. Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins, that tandem looked really, really solid. Seattle from that division as well looked really good going across the country, beating Atlanta. So right now I'd say top 4 that stuck on my mind were Baltimore, Kansas City, and then from the NFC West, Arizona and Seattle.
I'm loving that Arizona. I was thinking about grabbing my Cardinals hat, but I feel like that'd be doing too much.
Are you a Cardinals fan or?
Yeah, it's been tough because the Colts had their rough period, and then I was like, do I want to consider myself? But I like the Cardinals jerseys. I like Kurt Warner, Larry Fitzgerald, so
okay,
I just consider myself a Cardinals fan from now on.
All right, good deal.
And you do drink lots of coffee for your show. What has been your favorite type in general?
My go-to, so in the summer and the warmer times, my go-to is just a vanilla iced coffee, no classic syrup in it, with a splash of 2% milk. Typically more of an iced coffee guy than I am hot coffee, just because I think it's easier to drink and it's usually tastier. And then now that we're getting into a little bit of crisper air, chillier in the fall, I go with a hot chai tea latte with a shot of espresso.
Mm.
So get a little caffeine in there and get a little warmth. It's kind of a fall drink in my mind. So those are my two favorites.
What are your thoughts on pumpkin spice?
When it's not being shoved down my throat at like, August 25th, I actually like it. They got pumpkin spice when it's warm is really good. The pumpkin spice cold brew or the pumpkin cold brews. Obviously talking about from Starbucks, but those are really, really good as well. So I'll hop on that. I'm not afraid to admit it.
When you're in New York, what's the one thing you miss the most about Indiana?
Oof. Just personally, like all the people in my life, it's my whole family is from here. I've grown up here, I obviously went to school here. So, I've had the same core group of friends since I was 7 or 8 years old. So it's tough being out there and knowing that, all that's going to change and I'm going to see them a lot less often than I'm used to. But at the same time, I love New York. I love New York City. And it's always great to be out there.
And I've heard a lot of, I guess, mixed reviews about it. I know I've never been there myself. I heard sometimes it's gross, sometimes it's beautiful. What's the worst part in your opinion about it?
About New York?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man. I haven't been there enough to have a worst part. I'm assuming that when I do get there, maybe public transportation, I hear a lot about that. I probably won't go on the subway. I'm weird about being underground and claustrophobic stuff. And, a lot of nastiness goes on down there. So I don't know if I'll touch that very much. I guess just like the traffic, obviously, like that's kind of annoying to always have that going on, even during quarantine times. But yeah, besides that, pretty basic stuff. I haven't been there long enough to really nail down something that's like, man, New York,
And your thoughts on TikTok? It's allegedly supposed to be ending. I don't care about that. Do you think it's good or bad for, I guess, the youth and the world as a whole?
Well, and two different, on one hand, I think that it's good for creators and people like myself and yourself because it's an avenue that was not there even a couple years ago, but especially, coming up for the longest time in order to, make it in sports media, make it in comedy, make it in movies or whatever it is. Like you had to have a super, super breakthrough and get really, really lucky. And while that's still the case, overwhelmingly the case, there's still a lot more avenues out there to be able to, create and make it a life out of it. You know what I mean? So in that way, I think TikTok's great. But when I take off my, creativity hat and just put on like my human hat, I think it all sucks. I think the whole thing is just, it makes me lose faith in humans, being on all of these social media apps and online where people say the things they do and like to be the way that they are. So yes, I think it's positive in that aspect. And then no, as probably like a future parent, hopefully, I think it all sucks.
I think that's the trade-off with even every social media. It's just the toxicity that you sort of discover. But last thing I want to know, what is your favorite movie trilogy?
Star Wars. Yeah.
Like
huge.
For prequel, main, or what do you?
Oh, so just trilogy, not saga. Yeah, if it's just trilogy, then it's got to be the original, New Hope, Empire, Return of the Jedi. But overall, I still love the sequel trilogy. Shout out Adam Driver, Indiana Kid, Kylo Ren. I don't know if you knew that. I don't know. He's an Indiana boy.
I haven't gotten to watch those movies. I've been busy, but the first 6.
So you've been busy for the last 6 years.
Well,
you can't get around to them. No, I'm just messing with you. But yeah, there you go. You got your first 6 that you like. You can see my Star Wars wall. I don't know if you can see all that. I'm a big collector, so big into that. But that I would have to say the original trilogy. If it all came down to it, that'd be my favorite.
Yeah, for me, I remember seeing Revenge of the Sith. I'm kind of glad that that's the last one I've seen, and I still need to go on the other ones. But just the the lasting impact that they had on me. Oh my goodness.
It's a classic, man. I know, but you got probably more time now than you would have just with COVID and everything. I suggest, if you have Disney Plus, I don't know if you have Disney Plus. If you don't, I'll give you my login, and you can just go on there, and you can check out 7, 8, 9. A lot of really, really good, a lot of really fun parts in those.
Yeah, the sad thing is I believe I got the 9 spoiled, but I forgot about it already. So
Yeah. So yeah, just Men in Black it, just get it out of your mind, and you'll be good. Yeah.
Well, Mr. Mulinaro, I'm so glad that you've been able to come on this episode with me. I'm so glad that you're doing Indiana proud, doing big things. It's sort of hard to get a lot of people sticking out from there. We got Jason Whitlock and some athletes, but I'm glad that as part of the newer generation, you're doing what you are.
I appreciate that a lot, man. That means a lot. Always glad to talk to a fellow Indianapolis native. Always, reach out. Best of luck with everything going on. If you need any advice for college or just whatever you need, man, just give me a shout and we'll make it happen. All right.
I got you. Thank you so much. Have a day, everyone.